Oh my goodness. I can't believe we're already at our fifth teller. I'm like annoyed. I'm like, it goes too fast for me. It's just such a stunning evening, or daytime, depending on where you are. But I will go ahead and welcome our next storyteller to the stage, even though it's going too fast. Now this storyteller, when asked what food represents them and why, he said, I love this. The food that represents the storyteller is vanilla ice cream, because I'm kind of basic but dependable. He said, basic but dependable. Hey, I think vanilla is actually an incredible spice and it is very underappreciated. And I also think that you are an incredible spice that is maybe not underappreciated, but don't call yourself basic because you're more than basic. You're amazing. Let's welcome this person to the stage with huge joyful noise, our next storyteller himself, Tony.
Tony!
Yeah.
Yeah, Tony.
Thank you. It's June 2020, and my mother and a very tightly selected group of friends are helping me manage the needs of two very healthy but very demanding 10-week-old twins. And the reason that my partner, Sandra, isn't is because she's in the middle of her second of 2 stays at an inpatient psychiatric facility. Because it is the early days of COVID-19, I can't see her, I can't visit her. So the only contact I have are the phone calls she's willing to accept or to make. And when I do speak to her on the phone, sometimes I hear nurses and patients in the background. And in lieu of seeing the space she's in, all the terrifying images of mental health facilities that I know from TV and movies kind of overwhelm me. Her voice is empty. It's like a wraith. She's like a shell of herself. And she tells me things like, the medication isn't working because I'm not sick. This is just who I am now. And she tells me I don't want to be a mom and I don't love our boys, or you're the reason that I don't want to kill myself. And I don't know how to tell her that there is no me without our children anymore. She's convinced that she's just convinced that she doesn't want to be a part of that reality. So medication doesn't seem to be working. We're spinning our wheels. And one day she calls me and she tells me they want to give me shock treatment. Now, from speaking with her doctors, I knew that electroconductive therapy was an option, but only as a last resort. And later a phone call with her doctor confirmed that we had gotten to that point, that the talk therapy and the medication wasn't working. And he explained that the treatment was fairly successful, but he also gave me the impression that they didn't quite know why it was successful. So in a lot of ways, I kind of felt like an Apollo 13 astronaut's wife, where the person I loved was stuck on the far side of the moon, and I had no choice but to trust people who were smarter than me to get them back. Because she was involuntarily, it was up to her, and she eventually conceded to try this treatment. And after her first session, she called me and she was terrified and she was crying. And she told me they said I didn't have any babies. Because what happened was, when she came out of the anesthesia, she asked, did I have any babies? And the nurse or whoever was there took her a little too literally and said no, because she didn't have babies that day. I had to remind her that their names were Lorenzo and Max and that she had had them several weeks earlier. A couple of days later, she had her second treatment and she called me again. She was not terrified, but she was still confused and disoriented. And again, I had to remind her what their names were. She said, how did I get here? And now it was my turn to misunderstand. I thought she was speaking figuratively. And I said, bad luck, kiddo. And she said, no, how did I actually get here? Have I been here before? And I had to remind her that, yes, you've been there twice. I brought you the first time and you went in an ambulance the second time. A couple days later, she had her third treatment. And when she called, I heard her voice for what felt like the first time in months. And she said, I have babies. Tell me all about them. So I reminded her their names were Lorenzo and Max. They're doing great. And after that point, after 7 more sessions, she was discharged after almost 40 days over 2 stays in an inpatient facility. And she continued to get treatment, becoming less and less frequent, but for a year. And especially in those first few months when I would drop her off and then pick her up from her treatments, I would have to remind her that our sons' names were Lorenzo and Max. And over the 20-minute drive from the hospital back to our house, I would have to give her a crash course in their routines and how to care for them. The biggest problem with the treatment she got, or the biggest side effect, was memory loss. And the way it was framed to me initially was that she might forget phone numbers, but we all have smartphones, so that's not important. And she might forget how to get to someplace familiar. But short-term memory loss is a common side effect. And I guess I underestimated what short-term memory loss was, because my wife does not remember having our children, and she doesn't remember her psychosis. Her memories don't start until October of 2020, 6 months after our sons were born. That was really when she started to form and to retain memories. And it was kind of our fresh start where we got to start to make those memories as a family. So even though she doesn't remember our son being born, like I said, she doesn't remember the psychosis, which might be a good thing in the long run for her. But I carry the burden of those memories to honor the pain and the joy that she had forgotten, and also the challenges that she overcame. Thank you.
Bravo, Tony. That was
Man.
Wow, Tony. Ooh, got caught wiping my